London ordered the operation to go ahead as she had just days to live. Our health correspondent Fergus Walsh was at the High Court.
This is a remarkable story about how a High Court judge, lawyers and doctors here and in Newcastle all worked together to save the life of a teenager who'd become overwhelmed by her circumstances. The girl, referred to only as M to protect her identity, was perfectly healthy until a few weeks ago. She loved swimming and netball. Then she suffered heart failure. Doctors at the Freeman Hospital in Newcastle told M she'd die within a week unless she had a heart transplant. Her mother agreed to the operation, but M refused, so doctors contacted the judge at home late at night. He sent a lawyer round to visit the girl in hospital, and she told him, "I don't want to die, but I would rather die than have someone else's heart. I would feel different with someone else's heart. I don't want to take tablets for the rest of my life." The lawyer acting for the girl said she was intelligent, but events had overtaken her.
This had suddenly overcome her. She'd been overwhelmed. She was confused. She was very seriously ill. As I say, she was on the point of death. And I did not think that she really had the capacity to make a choice of this nature.
While surgeons waited for a donor heart, the girl's family and doctors persuaded her to accept the decision.
I think because people spent time with her and explained that it really was necessary, that she couldn't afford not to have it done. And I think it's very traumatic for anyone to undergo that type of surgery, and particularly a young girl.
Ultimately, the judge decided that the heart transplant was in the girl's best interest, so he authorised surgeons to go ahead. She had the operation this morning and is recovering in hospital. Fergus Walsh, BBC News, at the High Court.
An 8-year-old girl whose family was killed in a road accident is now being sued by the driver of the other car. Emma Lucas lost her parents and elder brother in the crash. The other driver, Martin Rose, wants her insurers to pay compensation for the loss of his van and for minor injuries.
Playing by day, she cries at night for her family. 8-year-old Emma Lucas is making a remarkable recovery. She lost both her parents and her 10-year-old brother James in a car crash last year. She herself was seriously injured and is due to have plastic surgery on her legs. The family were driving home when their car collided with a van driven by shopkeeper Martin Rose. Just after the crash, Mr. Rose failed a breath test and was later jailed by the courts for failing to provide a blood sample and for driving without a licence. He has previous convictions for drunk driving. This week, his lawyers sent Emma's grandmother a claim to the family insurers for damages. Mr. Rose wants compensation for his injuries and for the loss of his van. Emma's family are horrified.
It's opened all the wounds up. I mean, we just want to be left to get over it. And this man just won't leave us alone.
This is the home of Martin Rose. His solicitors say that this letter was not intended to cause any offence to the Lucas family, but they say that he lost £250 in 1 week's earnings, plus other costs. He could also face a counterclaim from the Lucas family. They say they'll fight this all the way. Geeta Gurumurthy, BBC News, Kent.
An 18-month-old boy is missing in Norfolk and there's a big police operation to try to find him. Ben Lanchbury wandered away from a house near Swaffham around lunchtime today. Police say he was wearing blue shorts and has very blonde hair. An intruder who tried to break into Buckingham Palace yesterday has now been detained under the Mental Health Act. The 40-year-old man ran towards one of the palace entrances, but he was caught by police.
It was genteel business as usual at the palace this afternoon, with guests arriving for one of the Queen's garden parties. But for a few seconds yesterday afternoon there was drama as a man sprinted through these gates and across the palace forecourt with armed police in pursuit. The man made it to one of the palace doors where he was brought to the ground in full view of astonished onlookers.
A bloke ran through from here, made it up to the steps. As he got onto the steps, he was apprehended by one of the policemen from here. And then 2 other security guards came out, sort of flattened him down and then just carried him through once they apprehended him and frisked him down.
Royal security has been tightened considerably since 2 incidents in the early 80s. In 1981, blank shots were fired at the Trooping the Colour. The following year, an intruder called Michael Fagin got into the Queen's bedroom. Now there is more close protection than is sometimes apparent. Edinburgh 2 weeks ago, the opening of the Scottish Parliament. Protesters rushed the Queen's carriage. The household cavalry pushed them away, and on the carriage, one of the men dressed as a footman is talking into a radio in his sleeve. But the most serious problems can be caused by people who are mentally ill. Australia, 1994, a disturbed man rushed at Prince Charles firing blanks. Police had split seconds to decide how to respond. The palace knows that the royal family is particularly susceptible to attention from people who are mentally disturbed. Generally, though the behaviour of such people may seem threatening, they are completely harmless. But it does pose particular dilemmas to the armed police who guard the royal family. Yesterday's comparatively minor incident, though, the palace says, shows that security here is effective. Nicholas Witchell, BBC News, Buckingham Palace.
Time is 16 minutes past 6. In a few moments,